Okay, this is the March Air Force, but ARB, yeah, there we go, I'll get it right. March Air Reserve Base Aero Club Safety Meeting for December. Welcome, and I'm Roger, the safety officer, and tonight we're going to have a guest speaker, and hopefully it'll be lots of fun and some neat things that I've watched some of his stuff before, and it's a pretty good. He does some good job. Bob over here, manager, he's standing there like as if he wants to say something, but I don't know if that's. Yeah. Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and get started right off the bat? Okay, new people. I'm giving you a break, Jack. Anybody that's new? I don't see any real new faces, actually, not since the last meeting. We've actually had several people join the club since the last meeting. I just don't see them here. Okay. Okay, has anybody gotten any new pilot ratings? Again, everybody that got all this stuff is not here. Can't believe it. How many got the email on Gene Porter? Got his private. Good. Okay. So y'all know it. So when you see him, make sure you let him know. He just got his private pilot's license, and it was a long haul for him because he went over once already to get his exam done, and come to find out he didn't have enough cross-country time, I believe is what it was. And so the examiner told him come back, so he did. And he, had to keep up there with his proficiency, and he finally did it. So he worked hard for it.
You got the sign-in sheet right here?
Yeah, it's right here. I'm going to pass that around in a couple of minutes.
You got my complex.
Okay, well, that's the point. It's anything that you get. Stand up. Tell them.
Recently got my complex in the T6 Texan, and I'm working on my tail wheel in it right now.
Yeah, just make sure it gets. Okay. Anybody soloed lately? Anybody just get started flying?
Yeah, I would just start flying.
Okay, and that
Like today.
includes also getting checked out in the airplane after a while. Start flying. That's new, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Got checked out.
Yeah, well, that includes that too. It's not just the ratings. Has the FAA taken anything away from you? None? Okay. We have had some people in the past do that. Bill, have you had some taken?
Alright, since last meeting I flew down one of our travel missions out to Australia. I hit a bird in Alice Springs. Came back. 3 days later, took the same airplane, flew to Rota, Spain, hit another bird there. Came back here and landed here, ran over some of that wire, but you got all the FOD stuff you guys been hearing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
We went up the tire and had a tire replaced here.
Oh,
Been an eventful month.
so you were the one that landed on those wires out there. All right.
Exactly, I'm an expert in this.
He's an expert at that. Bill is our wing safety officer, so he's over me. Okay, anybody else that has anything to share? Experiences? Okay.
It's been a couple months. Got checked out of Lake Elsinore for glider towing, and so probably go work on my glider rating after that.
Okay. Flying those things that doesn't, all quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
2002.
3 or 4 times with that trip back.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Aero Club manager, we'll talk to him, or he'll talk to us, rather. And we'll go over real quick, know your OIs, SOPs, I'll explain that. And then we're going to have a thing called, I call it winter weather season. I don't know what the real guy's going to call it. Okay, Bob, it's your turn.
Okay. Does this look familiar to anybody? It was found in an airplane. It's a battery pack for the ANR headsets.
T-34.
Is it a T-34?
That's why I found it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep it at the office until someone claims it. It went out with an email to a few people to fly it, so anyway. Those that just missed the Christmas party, we had a great time. Those that were there had even a better time. And we enjoyed it and gave out about 14 gifts, including some flight time for those members that were fortunate enough to draw the right paper sack. We tried to make them all equal in weight, and therefore the one that got the paper slip for the free flight time had rocks in it, but they were pretty, so they couldn't cheat. So anyway, but we had a good time. Out of everybody, only four coupons were not drawn in regards to the prize. So almost everybody had a good chance for a prize. I'm just going to cover a couple things here in regards to items I copied down for standardization, and it covers all the pilots here. I'm not sure if, well, I'll talk in general. If you put something in the flight training program in regards to a maintenance item for the airplane that you just flew, mark it on the board on the 781 Alpha. That's the white sheet. If that's full, we'll give you a new sheet to put in there. So we have a checks and balances. This is going to catch up with us with the inspections that are coming about. And then David G. may not open it up if I'm not in the office or Roger's gone too, and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with the airplane, yet it's in the computer system. So let's try and double up that. If you're going to have an issue, contact either Roger and I. Don't ground the airplane until you talk to Roger and I, so that we can make things jive. Coupons. If you're using the monthly coupon for $5, don't just put it on the invoice and not submit anything, because we're not going to accept it. We're going to take and add on money onto your billing, because this is the only way it's going to work. Other than that, Roger's on the telephone trying to make something work. And if you've got a coupon, they're in the top left-hand drawer of his desk. They're all pre-printed. Just fill out the coupon for your monthly freebie and stick it inside. Don't staple it, otherwise Roger will hit you with a baseball bat. Just be sure and stick it in there, fold it in half, and put the paper clip in, and it goes in the box again. We need to start watching errors in flight time in regards to the hobs and the tack. We're putting in numbers because we think that's what we saw when we left the airplane. And then the next person goes in that says, something's wrong here. Then we have to go out and correct what's happening, or we've got to go back in the computer because there was an error placed in it. In some cases, it's cost the club a few dollars because you misrepresented yourself in putting the correct time in. So all you're doing, if you don't put the correct time, is you're hurting yourself and the club, which is becoming another important issue. I'll cover that shortly. Write legibly so that you can take and read it. I mean, hieroglyphics is great, and we do have people that are in anthropology that can read it, but I can't. So let's take and write legibly, especially writing letters and numbers. Credit card changes. If you've got a credit card that's expiring and you get a new credit card in the mail, notify Roger, please, because every time we go online, we're being charged for a phone call, even though it comes back rejected. And sometimes Roger has to run this 2 or 3 times. He tries to guess a date that's going to expire. In the meantime, it was compromised. The person's got a whole new card, and Roger can't take care of the requirements in regards to your dues. I want people to start thinking about what you need to do to copy something. Do I really need an item that was done today? Oops. I guess I left it in the office. Showing the weather, and it prints out 2 pages of NOTAMs for the base. It prints out 2 pages for the NOTAMs, and then it lays on the desk while someone goes and flies. Every time we start using paper as scratch paper, which is for printing only, it's costing the club money. And we're really pinching pennies, guys, I have to tell you. You don't really understand what's going on and what I have to answer to. I mean, I even have to answer to a few dollars to get an engine shipped here. So I'm pinching pennies to make you have a good time for the club. We're going to be buying gas, we're going to get the price down again, which is going to help us out in regards to the profit margin. And then since we've lost our contract or our sales to Customs with their 206, we've lost about $3,000 a month in income profit to the Aero Club. So we have to make this up some way with wages. I haven't taken a pay raise, Roger hasn't taken a pay raise in about 4 years now. You know, we donate our time just to make this club operate. Roger comes in on Sunday night, he may be here 2 or 3 hours. He's not even getting paid. I try and make up a few things here and there to help him out. But, you know, when the clock stops at 4:30, everybody's on free time. So help us out in trying to save a buck. In regards to saving a buck, when you refuel the aircraft, I can't emphasize, pick up the handle and carry it up to the pump. You can lock it on the little 1-inch bar that comes out of the reel, or lay it on the ground, wind up the hose, and pick it up. We're about ready to change the nozzle again because of damage from dragging it on the ground. That's not required. That handle was changed early this spring. So, you know, this is how we waste money, and it's costing us. And you really can't understand what the Air Force is going through. The Army is grounding every Kiowa helicopter to go to the Apache to save money under the Obama administration. I'm sure that Tyler can talk about Raytheon and what's going on with them, and how everybody's pinching pennies. And it's going to get progressively worse on FY14, which is what we're in right now. We do not get any Air Force money. We have to pay for what we have. So, you know, people don't fly, and I'm trying to save money by not putting an airplane on the line because of insurance. I'm trying to save a buck to keep us going. And the new base commander is to the book. We're not sure where he's going to go in regards to the Aero Club, in its total picture of losing money. And there's some errors last year that we were directed to go in one direction, and come to find out we should have gone in the other direction, and it's cost us money. We've taken a loss for last year. So the loss for last year was about $9 grand for us, where we could have saved almost $3,000 or better if we had the proper information. So it's a struggle. It's a real struggle. And everybody needs to chip in, and if you want to make this club grow, we got to do that. So that's all I've got. In the meantime, Art?
Bob, could you explain a little more about the people next door not buying gas from you anymore?
Because the 206s went to San Diego, and all they're doing is buying jet fuel.
Oh,
They don't have the 206 up here. All they have is turbines, the Pilatus and the helicopter. So they're on JP8. So that's why we don't have much in sales. We've lost all that sales money. And we're really not making a whole lot for any of the items we sell in the showcase. We really don't make that much because we're not competitive, and we have to raise the price on that. We end up costing us more than the outside. So we try and keep things competitive. We try and keep our prices competitive. So, any other questions? I'll take a chocolate ice cream back there. My Navy friend. Anyway, thanks again, and if I don't say it at the end of the meeting, wish everybody a Merry, Merry Christmas, and thanks for supporting the club, and the best of New Year.
Hey, Gene, stand up.
You missed that part.
Yeah, you missed that part. Yes.
Pass.
Got it done. Yes, he did. Believe me. All right, real quick. Know your SOPs. Effective immediately? No. Someday soon, maybe. We might get our new SOPs called operating instructions. Unbeknownst to us, and the first time since we've ever been in this club, we're having to do approved SOPs that only had to be approved by 2 people, our boss and and one other person, usually the wing commander. Now, it's got to be approved by 10 different commanders throughout the whole base, most of which do not fly airplanes or have any clue, and we've already had a couple emails from a couple of these people who had no clue. I can't even remember the questions they were, but they were like, well, shouldn't this be this way, and blah, blah, blah. And, this is an SOP back in Fred's days. Fred.
FM finance.
Yeah.
And it also used to be OIs before that.
Yeah. Well, now it's got to be approved by everybody on base. And so we still do not have the new one yet. So, enough said on that. Okay, now, OIs or SOPs as it is right now is in Chapter 6. We covered this real quick last week, but this is a continuation of maintenance operating procedures. This is mostly David. The FAA directives and ADs and Air Force Manual 34-232, all those things will be applied to the maintenance. So basically, we do have a whole lot of regulations that we have to look at for maintenance. And not only FAA, but also the Air Force manuals. And then, of course, you got ADs, airworthiness directives, and when those things come down, that's more cost on the Aero Club. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of ADs recently. I don't know, David, what was, yeah, we haven't had any of this. Yeah, so I guess our airplanes are so old now that they kind of, yeah, over there. Corrosion control. Okay, for you guys who like to get some free time, it says right here, aircraft will be washed for corrosion control once each month. Okay, the local EPA here on base has stopped all that. It says you will not wash an airplane because the dirt will go down into the drain. So we have to stop doing it unless we can take the airplanes down to the C-17 wash rack down there because they have a filter. Well, that's not real effective to do that. I mean, we have to have a clearance and all that kind of stuff to do it. If there's somebody here that does have a flight line clearance and can taxi the plane down there, then maybe we can do that. But the other alternative is just fly the airplane, go down to Hemet. What's some of the other places? Hemet, Riverside, French Valley, they all have wash racks. And we do have some brushes and things like that that's in the hangar, and just fly the airplane down there and wash the airplane. And in doing so, you get 30 free flying minutes. And if you want to use that same flight that you just flew, then we just take off 30 minutes off that flight that you just flew. So that's the way to do it. Ken Benner used to do it all the time. And we had several people in the club who used to do it. Tyler has done it. So, as a matter of fact, we owe you still 30 minutes for that last time you did it. I got it in my notes. So, it's something to look at because we need to kind of supposedly keep up with this SOP, corrosion control. Okay, any questions? Okay, boom. Now let's get started with the real program. And let me,
For those that don't know, my name is Kevin Dennert. I was in the Marine Corps for about 8 years. While in the Marine Corps, my MOS, or my military occupational specialty, was weather. So I did that aviation weather for about 8 years, or about 7 years in the Marine Corps. So I have a little bit of knowledge in weather, not a lot. Only 7 years.
okay, got to figure out where we're at here, make sure that,
You
okay,
can tell the
no,
difference
that's
between
mine.
clouds and sunlight, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I think clouds block sunlight, I think.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll let you do the rest of this. So,
I know that there's more than 4 types of clouds. 27, actually.
and we'll see.
Or 27 states of the sky.
Kevin is my assistant safety officer in the Civil Air Patrol.
Can we get the lights in the back?
Yeah, just the right switch.
Yes, the right switch. and it may, that sound volume is right
Oh, the other one.
Other one.
over here.
Yeah.
Gee,
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
That's
no,
perfect.
not with David back there.
Yeah, we don't want people to fall asleep
Yeah.
because I talk monotone.
Oop.
Yep.
Drivers prefer to have blue skies and warm weather year-round. For those of us in the northern part of the continent, it's simply not possible. During those winter months, private pilots can either walk their aircraft away or spend a little extra time preparing themselves and their
That's set
aircraft
pretty
for
good.
winter flying.
Everyone hear that okay?
The issues you're going to encounter with winter flying are entirely caused by weather. You always want to get as
little louder.
before you go flying, but this becomes critical during the winter months. In the course of the flight, the weather can easily go from clear skies to an absolute blizzard. You know, it may seem obvious, but you really want to make sure that you dress for the cold. The last thing you want to do is rush your three-part check so that you can't enter your warmer cockpit. If you're lucky enough to have a heated hangar, that's good for both you and your aircraft. If not, you might want to look into an engine heater and towel cover like you have here to preheat your engine. Sources vary widely on this, but it's been said that starting a freezing cold engine can put hundreds of hours of wear and tear on it. A heater like this uses forced air to evenly heat all of the air around the engine. This means you're going to get even heating to all of the engine's parts. Running a cold engine at the RPMs required for takeoff will cause your engine even more damage. So regardless of whether or not you preheat your engine, when you're flying in the winter, you have to bring your engine temperature up before you even think about taking off. You can simply run your engine to bring it up to temperature, but this could take quite a while, since besides providing thrust, the prop also does a great job of pulling cool air into your engine. In winter, snow is going to be inevitable. We've all seen people driving around with a foot of snow in their car with a little hole cut out that they're looking through. That's kind of stupid in your car, but it's impossible in an airplane. All flight surfaces and control surfaces have to be free of snow, ice, and frost in order to go flying in the wintertime. Winter flying is not a time for laziness in your free flight. Getting accumulated snow off the aircraft is just the first step. Perhaps the biggest concern with winter flying is icing. Anyone who's flown commercially during the winter will have heard this term before, but you might not fully understand what icing means. Ice or frost on the flight surfaces of an aircraft can have a severe effect on the aircraft's performance. Even a sandpaper's thickness of ice or frost can disrupt the smooth flow of air over the wing and reduce the lift that's generated by as much as 40%. For commercial airlines, icing is a serious concern. Commercial airliners are built with several redundant systems to combat icing, and airline pilots observe strict procedures to ensure passenger safety.
There's lots of different conditions, whether it's a wet ice or a very dry snow. Different temperatures affect the accumulation factor of things that stick to the aircraft, which does affect the performance. The main systems on the aircraft, though, we have the air conditioning and pressurization system that uses the engine air off of the motors that goes through the nacelle, the front end of the engine, to keep it de-iced, as well as the forward edge. That's why they're silver on the front part of the wing, because we believe there's pipe through that to actually heat up and keep ice from accumulating on that, or snow. So that's the main system we have through the engine anti-ice switches and the wing anti-ice switch. These switches up here is the window heat and the probe heat, and all these windows here are electrically heated, as well as the probes are heated. And even we actually use that not even in icing conditions, because it also helps with the strength of the engine in case you hit a berg or something like that.
The main system that Captain Pruitt mentioned was the use of bleed air to de-ice the wings. Bleed air is excess air that is bled out of the turbine engines and then used for other purposes. Typically, the air is drawn from the compressor stage of the engine before it's combusted. This hot air will be used to pressurize and condition the cabin, as well as being used for de-icing. What most viewers may recognize as part of winter flying is the aircraft being sprayed with de-icing fluid.
We use different forms of glycol and de-icing fluid, but by doing that, depending on what the rate of accumulation is and depending on the temperature and the intensity and the fluid you use, it gives you so long before you take off, and it should prevent accumulation from affecting your aerodynamics.
The procedures and systems used by commercial pilots are almost entirely designed to be preventative and stop ice before it becomes a problem.
It's below 10 degrees.
10 degrees, you're going to turn the engine ice on, and if it's below 0, there's a chance you're going to get some ice on the leading edge of the wings, so you can put that on as well.
You can actually turn the wing light on, and at night you can actually look and see part of the wing from the leading edge, and you can actually see buildup out there. We just have a standard procedure. If it's below a certain temperature, the 10 degrees, and there's any kind of visible, you're in clouds, or it's raining, or snowing,
Just assume it's going to be
we just turn it on
Yeah.
as a precaution.
Some private aircraft are going to be equipped with very basic anti-icing systems. Anti-icing is any system that is engaged before ice forms. De-icing systems are used after the ice is formed. The 210 is equipped with a heated prop, a heated pitot tube, and a heated windshield.
The systems here in the 210 aren't designed for flight into known icing conditions. They're really more intended to help slow the growth of ice should you experience an inadvertent icing encounter. I've flown into ice before, and I'll tell you, it's an experience that I'm not looking forward to ever having again. But that's a story that we'll talk about in a future segment.
Only aircraft that have been certified for flight into known icing conditions can fly into areas where ice is known to exist. These aircraft have undergone rigorous testing and have anti-icing and de-icing equipment on board. Again, most of the extra work involved with winter flying comes before you get in the air. With proper prep, and if you stay alert in flight, you can easily be safe flying during the winter. There are a lot of great resources for information on winter flying that go well beyond what we've talked about, including AOPA's Air Safety Institute.
The great thing about winter flying is that when you finally get up in the air, the plane actually performs a lot better. With the cool, dense winter air, the engine just loves it. You feel the additional horsepower. And if it's not overcast or stormy, visibility is virtually unlimited. So I've done my homework, I've done my prep, I'm going to enjoy some winter flying.
All right, so that's it. Any questions? No, okay. So a lot of interesting stuff on there. Eugene, right? You just got your license? Where's the de-icing and the anti-icing equipment on our airplanes? What's that? You just got your license, right?
Yep, I just did.
You didn't see the de-icing switches in there and all that?
Yeah, that's all you had.
Let's see. There you go. All right, a couple things to think about. As the video said, for aircraft preparation, this is going to be. I mean, it's relating to weather, but we're not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much. But engine oil. You want to look at hoses. Make sure all your hoses are connected and all that in the engine correctly. Cabin heat, control cables. If you're able to access them, if you're able to see control cables, make sure they're not iced over and stuff like that. Batteries are going to be drained a lot faster in winter weather. Propellers, make sure that they're clear of ice. Wings and control surfaces, clear of ice. And then wheel wells and wheel pans, same thing. What we're going to talk about today is going to be the weather concerns. Fast-moving fronts, strong and gusty winds, blowing and drifting snow. I know it's Southern California, we don't see it too much, but up in the Cajon Pass, you'll see snow up there. Hopefully we don't see too much snow down here, but I mean it occasionally happens. Icing conditions, fog or poor visibility associated with it, and then of course the cold temperatures in the wintertime. Winter flying requires special operator procedures. That being said, pilots should assure themselves that they have obtained adequate cold weather knowledge appropriate to the aircraft used. The geographical and weather environment, you might have good weather down here, but if you're flying up towards Sacramento, it's a lot colder up there than it is here. So where you start your flight at, maybe the weather is going to be completely different where you're going to be landing at. And then use a little extra judgment, extra caution, and exercise good judgment in analyzing weather situations. Types of precipitation that you may encounter would be rain, freezing rain, sleet, snow, and hail. You'll see the hail in thunderstorms. Rain, of course, it might be snowing, and then the snow goes to the warm layer and then becomes the rain. Might just be rain to begin with. You could have the freezing rain where you have snow and then it goes through a warm layer of air and then it melts and it doesn't have time to refreeze, and you have the freezing rain. Sleet starts to snow, goes through a warm layer, and then it refreezes before it hits the surface again. And then snow, I think we all know what snow looks like. Well, it's Southern California, so maybe we don't. Conditions that create the most dangerous environments for us are going to be icing. 14 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. High humidity. Air rising about 10 centimeters, 4 inches per second. Drizzle drops 30 to 300 microns across. Remember, a dime is only 300 microns stacked up. That's how thick a dime is. Drops freeze when they hit an airplane or a surface. That surface, the airplane, the ground, and it creates a rough coating that disrupts airflow. For aircraft icing, it occurs over large areas where cloud drops are made of water that is supercooled. That is, it is colder than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, but it has not turned to ice. So what happens is you have snow that falls, goes through a warm layer in the atmosphere, and then it goes through a cold layer in the atmosphere. So it goes cold, warm layer, and then cold again. Well, now that cold layer is colder than 32 degrees, but that water droplet hasn't had time to freeze yet. But it's colder than 32 degrees. And all it takes is that cold surface from your wings, which is colder than 32 degrees, to freeze on contact. Anyone know the difference between wet snow and dry snow? Anyone? Bueller?
One's wet, one's dry. When you blow off and when you can't.
Well, snow is wet, right? So how can you have wet snow and dry snow? Anyone?
Water content.
Water content. Anyone go skiing? Anyone ski? Raise a hand, skis.
Yep.
Southern California ski or Utah ski?
Utah,
Why Utah?
because it's dry.
But it's snow.
Dry.
All right, Utah says they have the best snow on earth. They have the best powder. Dry snow, or wet. Let me start back. Wet snow is going to be snow that is warmer than 25 degrees Fahrenheit on average. If it's a dry snow, it's colder than 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Wet snow will accumulate on wings and stick to wings. Dry snow will fall on the wing, but you can wipe it right off. So if you have a wet snow and a dry snow, what do you think is going to create more of a hazard for flying? Wet snow, because the wet snow is going to stick to the airplane and it's going to freeze to the airplane. Whereas dry snow, the wind's going to blow it right off and you're not going to have a problem with it. The problem with the wet snow and dry snow is you'll see snow and you'll think, oh, well, the visibility is really bad, so therefore it's really bad icing conditions. But what that I can also say is, it's actually dry snow because it's more opaque. And so therefore, when you have the really poor visibility with the dry snow, it's not going to stick to the airplane. And all of a sudden you have snow that's falling and you have good visibility, and you're thinking, oh, well, we're okay because we have good visibility. But that just means you have wet snow. Here's diagrams of the supercooled water droplets. On the top there you can see you have the snow that's falling, goes to the warm layer, melts, and then before it hits the surface, whether that be in the ground or the aircraft itself, it doesn't have time to freeze, but it's sub-zero temperatures. And then as soon as it makes contact with that surface, now it freezes. Now you have that great icing condition. Icing, most severe icing occurs during mature stage of a thunderstorm, upper half of the cloud, updraft regions, and of course you're going to have clear, rime, or mixed icing. And what is the clear, rime, and mixed? Clear icing is the most dangerous. It's glossy, it's clear, it's translucent. You're not going to be able to see it as easily. So you might think, oh, well, we don't have any ice out there. So because we don't have any ice, I don't see anything on the wing, we're good to fly. Most common in cumulative form clouds at temperatures 0 to -8 degrees Celsius. Rime ice is rough, milky, opaque. It's most common in stratiform clouds between temperatures of 0 and 15 degrees, -15 and 15 degrees Celsius. Sorry. And then mixing ice is a combination of the two. What about carburetor ice? Any problems with carburetor ice in the wintertime? In practice, formed by impact of moist air at temperatures between 15 and 32 degrees Fahrenheit on aeroscopes, throttle plates, heat valves, etc. Usually form when visible moisture such as rain, snow, sleet, or other clouds are present. Most rapid accumulation can be anticipated at 25 degrees Fahrenheit. What about fuel ice? Forms at or downstream of the freezing point where fuel is introduced, and occurs when the moisture content of the air freezes as a result of the cooling caused by vaporization. It generally occurs between 40 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but may occur at even higher temperatures. It can occur whenever the relative humidity is more than 50%. And then throttle ice. Forms at or near a partly closed throttle valve. The water valve is introduced, the water vapor in the induction air condenses and freezes due to Venturi effect, cooling as the air passes the throttle valve. Since the temperature drop is usually around 5 degrees Fahrenheit, the best temperature for forming throttle ice would be 32 to 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Although a combination of fuel and throttle ice could occur at a higher temperature. Anyone experience carburetor icing? How did you know he had carburetor icing?
In a Cessna with a fixed pitch prop, the RPM started going down. Engine turns heavy. Yeah, I didn't get that far.
Okay. So to prevent carburetor ice, carb heat ground check. It's part of the checklist. Use heat in icing range. Use heat on the approach and descent. The warning signs: loss of RPM. Drop in manifold pressure on constant speed and rough running. What should you do? Apply full carb heat immediately. May run rough initially for a short time while the ice melts. What about carbon monoxide? Because now you're flying in cold weather, so you're cold in the airplane. Well, let's get those vents opened up from the engine and let's get some hot air inside so we can, keep warm, because I don't want to be cold. So now you have the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning. Symptoms could include feelings of sluggishness, warmth and tightness across forehead, followed by headache, throbbing pressures at the temples and ringing in the ears, severe headache, nausea, dizziness, and dimming of vision may follow. If you have carbon monoxide poisoning exist, you should have those plates inside the airplane, right? That tells you if you have carbon monoxide. So that'd be another indication. Shut off cabin heat or any other opening to the engine compartment. That should be number 1. Open a fresh air source immediately. Don't smoke. We shouldn't be smoking in the airplane anyways. Use 100% oxygen if available. Land as soon as possible. And before you go back up again, check the source of the contamination before further flight is correct. Before flight is correct. Be sure the source of contamination is corrected before further flight. Alright, this is a pretty interesting video. This occurred in Utah. It's a nice snowy day to go flying. You have the pilot. He's taking up the front passenger is let's see here. You have a husband who's taking up his wife for I think her birthday and their child, and they're going on a flight, and I think it's her first time in a small airplane. Just watch the video and tell me what you think.
So we are over the top of the overpass, and we were just told that there's carburetor ice. So this is kind of exciting. I'm not worried. I think we're going to be just fine. Right now, I'm just making this video. I love my channel. I know we're going to be just fine. But this is kind of scary and kind of exciting at the same time. Right now we're looking for a place to land. We're looking for a straightaway. Just got a prayer in our heart and think we're going to be just fine. Alright, we're going to land the field right here. Is everything okay? Okay. Okay, well, we have just survived a crash landing. And I'm still recording. I'm really, really sorry about this. Boy, it's I'm really sorry about your plane. Are you okay? Absolutely. Kara, are you okay? Are you gonna never fly again? Yeah. I knew that we'd be fine. I didn't expect that. Okay.
Look how long he landed.
I wonder why he didn't use the big highway.
you know, to me, there is plenty of roads for him to land on.
Yeah, I don't think he anticipated the depth of the snow and what happens when you rush it into 6 inches of snow.
Yeah, because you can see that when he landed, from the time that he touched down to the time he flipped the plane over, it was like a carrier landing. I mean,
Yeah.
he hit the wire straight on and it stopped the plane. But yeah, why he didn't land on a road that didn't have any snow on it, I don't know. I mean, I guess we can, you know, Monday morning quarterback him on all that. But sad news about the airplane. The pilot on it failed to make his insurance payment, I think 2 months, and took it up, and insurance said, nope, sorry, you're not covered. So his airplane's a total loss. Yeah, not a smart thing to do. Okay, air masses. Large bodies of air with similar moisture and temperature properties. Two air masses that influence Southern California can be maritime tropical and a modified maritime polar coming down from the north. 4 types of fronts: stationary front, cold front, warm front, and occluded front. And those all extend off a low. The jet stream drives the fronts. They move the pressure systems, and they move the fronts. Cold fronts, transition zone where cold air mass is replacing a warmer air mass. Cold fronts generally move from northwest to southeast. The air behind a cold front is noticeably colder and drier than the air ahead of it. Expect increased convective activity, rain showers, reduced visibility, and lower ceilings. Last on average approximately 1 to 2 days, and usually transitions into a stationary boundary. There's a makeup of cold front. You can see how steep the cold front is and how fast it will move through. You'll have the cirrus clouds in front, and then cirrus becoming cirrostratus, alticumulus, and then your cumulonimbus with pretty fair weather behind it, but a lot colder temperatures. Warm fronts. Warm fronts are at the leading edge of the warm air mass, moves more slowly than the cold front, and clearing and warming is usually rapid after frontal passage. If unstable, thunderstorms may be embedded among the stratiform clouds ahead of the front, and after frontal passage, thunder showers may continue. You see on the warm front where it's a lot more shallow, so from the surface all the way up to 26,000 feet, it takes a long time for that to pass through. Santa Ana winds, strong downslope winds that blow through the mountain passes in Southern California. These winds, which can easily exceed 40 miles an hour, are warm and dry and can severely exacerbate brush and forest fires, especially under drought. In my experience, when we start having conditions of Santa Ana winds, they typically last on average about 3 days. Thunderstorms, hazards to flight, of course. You're going to have lightning, strong winds, turbulence, heavy rain, and icing. There's a cross section of a thunderstorm cloud where you have wind shear and turbulence zone at the bottom on the outskirts of it. You can always tell the movement of thunderstorms by the anvil top, which way it's moving, because it's being blown in that direction. Severe thunderstorm criteria: hail of 1 inch or greater. It used to be 3/4 inch, but they upped it to 1 inch or greater. You'll always have hail in a thunderstorm. It's just a matter of, is the hail going to reach the surface or not? If it's cold enough throughout the layers of the atmosphere, you'll have hail hitting the surface. Otherwise, the ups and down drafts keep the hail going up and down, and then when it reaches the point where the updrafts can no longer sustain the size of the hail, it's going to fall through the atmosphere. If it's falling through the atmosphere quite rapidly and through a cold layer, it's going to hit the ground as hail. If it goes through warm layers, you might just have rain. But in all thunderstorms, you're going to have hail. Severe thunderstorms, winds exceeding 50 knots, and of course any tornado. Thunderstorm facts. Thunderstorms affect relatively small areas when compared to hurricanes and winter storms. Typically, a storm is 15 miles in diameter and lasts an average of 30 minutes. Nearly 1,800 thunderstorms are occurring at any time around the world. That's nearly 16 million thunderstorms a year. So anytime you ask a weather person what's weather like, well, he's going to say it's a thunderstorm. Because there's a thunderstorm happening somewhere. Hail occurs in, like I said, all thunderstorms. And the National Weather Service issues watches and warnings for severe thunderstorms. Anyone seen the movie So I Married an Axe Murderer? I really wish I could have got the video on this. It shows the pilot there flying through a thunderstorm at night, and he's got the detective with him, and the detective's trying to get to another location. And he looks over at the pilot and he says, "Have you done this before?" And the pilot says, "Oh yeah, hundreds of times." "Well, never at night." You know, and he's like, "Well, you know how to get there, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's instruments, instruments." He goes, "Okay, well, what is this one?" And he points to the artificial horizon. He goes, "That's the artificial horizon. That's better than the real horizon." So here, hey, listen, how long is it going to take us to get there? It shouldn't take us very long. Actually, I have no concept of time. Probably something you don't want to hear as a pilot. Avoidance rules for thunderstorms. Stay away. Plan your flight and check your weather well enough to know that you're not going into a thunderstorm. Avoid convective activity of at least 10 to 20 miles. You'll have that hail coming out of the thundercloud 20 miles away. I was at Cherry Point, or actually at Bogue Field, which is about 20 miles away from Cherry Point. I'm out there playing volleyball, observing the sky, conditions, and it's clear skies above us, but we're getting rained on because Cherry Point, 20 miles away, had a thunderstorm over them, and it was being blown our direction. But by the time the hail was coming down, it was coming down as rain, and it was falling at our air station. So we had to report rain with clear skies. Avoid the freezing level. Freezing level, you're going to have your icing. No formation flights during thunderstorms, and do not use the autopilot. It's going to try to correct for it. If by some fluke in nature you end up in a thunderstorm which was not predicted and you could not see it, slow down. Use maneuvering speed. Remember that flying the airplane is your most important task. Get out of the thunderstorm as quickly as possible. Keep going straight with your wings level while you ride out overpowering up and down drafts. And of course, tell ATC that what your conditions are so they can be aware of it, so they can let someone else know. And then ask for help. I'm not going to go over too much on the fog other than showing different types. Radiation fog, advection fog, upslope fog, ice fog, freezing fog, and evaporation mixing fog. Temperature inversion. Last month was a really good case of it. It's where you have temperature inversion is the atmospheric layer where the temperature decreases with height is much less than normal. So you have the as you increase in temperature, as you increase in height, your temperature is going to decrease. Well, the inversion, it's going to decrease less than normal. And like I said, last month there was a really good thing at the Grand Canyon. This is the Grand Canyon. Imagine flying over thinking that you're just flying over a small valley and they have fog. And then you're wondering why your instruments are saying you're 1,700 feet above the fog, and you're thinking that it's just a small layer of fog that you're above. But you're flying over the Grand Canyon. So this is a really good temperature inversion where you don't see the Grand Canyon anymore. Turbulence, light, moderate, severe, and extreme. Most severe at or near the freezing level, caused by associated air motions. What can you request from ATC to help you in decision-making process? Anyone know? What's that?
Pilot report.
Pilot report. Is that it? Pilot report. Pilot report. Pilot report. Ask for PIREPs. And lastly, ask for PIREPs. PIREPs are really good. They not only let you know what the weather is like from another pilot that's flying in the area, but they also let other pilots know. If you're experiencing what you would consider a criteria for a pilot report, call ATC and let them know, hey, I have a PIREP. You know, I'm experiencing turbulence at this level. Let them know that maybe you're going through the freezing level, you know, which you weren't anticipating, but you're flying through a freezing level. Let ATC know that, because it's going to let other pilots know, hey, if they're listening to the radio, maybe I want to stay away from there. Maybe I don't want to go flying, you know. But PIREPs are a really good thing. For those that don't know, I'm a CHP officer, and one of my friends, classmates, he's now flying for the department. Well, he was flying from Apple Valley, flying down to our area in San Bernardino, and I like to joke around on the radio as much as I can. It makes the job more fun. So I asked dispatch to ask him for a PIREP, and dispatch is like thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. Is this something that's real? I said, yeah, ask him. Ask him for a PIREP. So then the time passed and the joke was over because she didn't ask in time. So I'm like, dang it. So then he came back in our area, and I sent a message. I said, ask him for a PIREP. She asked for a PIREP and goes, you know, Air 81, can I get a PIREP? And his response was, a PIREP? Because he was startled that dispatch was asking for a PIREP. So I told him from now on, anytime he flies in my area, I'm going to have him ask for a PIREP, just so I know what the weather's like. References, you can go on weather.gov, NOAA.gov. Weather Unisys is a really good one. A whole bunch of them on here. Any questions? Have I made this as boring as possible? If you have any questions regarding weather, if I don't have the answer, I have friends that are still in the weather service. I can get the answer. I'm kind of a weather geek. I've got 5 or 6 different weather apps on my phone. I used to not look at weather as much. People ask me what the weather is, and unless I'm flying or unless I really care, I don't look at it. But when I do look at it, I start analyzing it myself and everything. And next safety meeting, January 21st.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yay.
Good, sir.
Unless you have questions, that's it. Have a good Christmas and Merry New Year. No, it's the other way
Roger,
around.
you and Bob, thank you guys very much for dinner the other night. It was real good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you liked it. That was. We try to make it exciting. Of course, I hope that we have enough flashlights out there now. I actually expected half of you guys that came to have some flashlights, you know, shining. Next year, maybe we can give away a big screen TV. Yeah, right. Expect that.
Blue airline that's in Canada.
Yeah. All right, that's it.